Hi and welcome back. So this is the first update video on the gym build here in the Philippines. It's been a bit of a slow start at the dig site for one reason or another that I'll touch on in the rest of the video. That said, let's jump in and let's see what's happened so far. So on day one, Leo and his crew started to prepare the land ready for the digging. They pegged out the area. If you can see in the background, there's also a fence being removed. This fence belonged to our neighbour, and unfortunately they built it over the boundary, so it had to be moved. After a few hours, their wooden fence was removed and replaced with a corrugated iron wall. Work then continued on building what they call here a bang house. A bang house can get used to store valuable building items. It's also good for shelter and for storing cement so it doesn't get ruined when it invariably rains. So by the end of the second day, the neighbour's wooden fence had been removed and replaced with a corrugated iron fence. The boundary fences were placed in line or in accordance with the surveyor's markers, and the bang house was complete. So deliveries of coconut lumber arrived, digging could commence, and the coconut lumber is being used for making the forms when we pour the concrete in the foundation. The wooden structures that you see around the holes are nothing to do with the building. They're actually there just so that branches can be leant against them to protect the diggers from the sun, because all of the digging is being done by hand. And although the rainy season is on its way, it was particularly hot over these few days when the guys actually broke ground. The diggers got down about 1 metre before they hit a very hard seam of limestone and couldn't dig by hand any further. So we had to procure a mechanical digger called a backhoe here in the Philippines. This made short work of the foundation holes, but unfortunately the backhoe driver couldn't really judge 2 meters, so a lot of the holes were actually deeper than they needed to be. So these are the rebar structures that will go into the foundation holes to make the base ready for when the I-beam columns finally arrive. As I said, these holes are deeper than they need to be, so they'll need to be backfilled with concrete before we actually put the bases in. And this is Leo's team making up the rebar structures. Everything is normally done by hand here. You can see them mixing the cement to make the concrete to backfill the holes so they're only 2 meters deep. To speed the process up, we hired a cement mixer that arrived and lasted for about a day and a half before it died. So as a backup, I ordered a cement mixer online and it arrived after about 10 days. It arrived from China, so the instructions weren't exactly clear, and there were certain pieces that were missing, nuts, bolts and washers, so it took about a day and a half to actually procure all of that and then get the cement mixer working. So the cement mixer is working, it's powered by a generator, but when you put water, sand, cement and stones in, there's not enough power in the generator to allow the cement mixer to work correctly. So we then had to approach the electricity company to get a temporary connection so we could power the cement mixer correctly. So we contacted our electrician. His name is Alan. He's a really good guy. He mentioned that the power supply down to the gym wasn't the best. You can see from this picture that the cables are actually tied to trees. He said this wasn't going to be ideal. He recommended fabricating our own poles and erecting them so that the power supply to the gym would never be compromised. So that is all done. We're now just waiting for the electricity company to come check Alan's work, which I'm sure will not be a problem, and then they can connect us to the grid. So that's the first update. As I said, a bit of a slow start, having to move the neighbour's illegally erected fence, then having to call a backhoe excavator in to dig the foundations because the ground was too hard for the guys, then hiring a cement mixer that gave up the ghost after about a day and a half, then buying a backup that took another 10 days to arrive, then finding out that our generator didn't have enough power to operate that new cement mixer, and then having to fabricate electricity poles so we could get a temporary connection to the dig site. So that's all now done. We're just waiting for the electricity company to come down, check everything out, give us the green light so we can connect to the grid. And since making this video, the first cement mixer that we hired has now actually started working and is working well, meaning that plenty of cement is now being poured into the foundations, which is great, but it's costing me a fortune. So the next video is going to cover the work that's currently being conducted at the site, and that's the constructing of the forms and the building out of all the foundations. See you next time.